All right, so you've sent dozens, hundreds, or maybe even thousands of cold emails and messages looking for a client, and you still haven't gotten a single positive response. And now you're wondering, what the heck? Does this even work? Can cold outreach really help me land my dream clients? It worked so well for so-and-so. What am I doing wrong? Well, if sending cold emails has left you feeling frustrated and confused and still no clients to show for it, you might be making one of these 3 deadly outreach mistakes. Stay tuned. Hey Posse, what's up? It's Alex, and I'm coming at you this week with an exclusive interview with my good friend, serial entrepreneur, and fellow copywriter, Stefan Georgi. During this interview, you're gonna hear us riff on all sorts of juicy copywriting topics. Things like how to thrive in your freelance business during a recession, how AI is impacting the industry, if copywriting can really help you get rich quick, how to generate passive income as a copywriter, and of course, what we really think about cold outreach, and more specifically, what not to do when you're on the hunt for new clients. Stefan shares 2 of the worst cold outreach emails he's ever received, and one of them may or may not involve a hairy butt. I'm not even joking. And then he dissects 3 of the biggest cold outreach mistakes that he sees being made over and over again, and most importantly, what you should do instead if you want your cold outreach emails to stand out, leave an impact, and of course, get you hired. Now, I'm gonna be real with you. This video is full of some downright real talk, including some tough love and unpopular opinions, but we're also sharing practical advice for building a successful copywriting business that actually lasts. This interview was so much fun, and even though we both talk really fast and crammed so much into this interview, we barely scratched the surface, so I already think a part 2 is needed. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And of course, if you're new to the crew and want to see more expert interviews and tutorials like this one, then be sure to hit subscribe below, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when my next video goes live. Now here's the interview. Hey everybody, what's up? I am so freaking stoked about my special guest that I have here on my YouTube channel today. He is a good friend, fellow copywriter, and someone that I've admired in the industry for a long time. He has built many successful companies, scaled to, over 7 and 8 figures. He's written copy that has sold over $1 billion in products and services online. And now he is here joining me on my YouTube channel, where we are going to talk about all things copywriting, freelancing, the do's and the don'ts. Everyone, please welcome Stefan Georgi. Hi, Stefan.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me on.
I really want to start off with talking a little bit about sort of the state of the industry right now. I know there's a lot of uncertainty. A lot of people have been coming to me with questions about, the future of copywriting, the future of marketing. So the first thing I want to ask you is, where do you think the copywriting and marketing industry is going? What is the future of marketing, and what are you most excited about?
Yeah, it's a great question and a great way to start off. Yeah, I think that the future is very bright, honestly. If anything, my big driver right now is expanding the universe for copywriters and helping copywriters understand there's more opportunity than there probably has been at any point ever. And not just because of the medium of online and the internet, which we all know about, but really with crypto and Web3, with all the e-com, the explosion of e-com that happened during the pandemic and things like that, and Shopify stores growing. There's really never been more businesses online, and there's never been more people putting a lot of money into stuff, especially in the crypto and the Web3 space. So there's just a massive amount of opportunity, and all these ventures, whether it's blockchain or traditional, need copywriters, they need marketing help. And so to me, it's really like a blue ocean right now. Yeah,
I 100% agree. I read something the other day that I was Googling how many businesses there are in the world or something like that, and there are over 200 million businesses in the world, and that number is steadily increasing. And so one thing that I think happens when copywriters get started in the industry, and I think this happens in the Posse and in your community as well, is they get started and then they start seeing copywriters everywhere, and then all of a sudden they're in an echo chamber of other copywriters, and it can really create this sense of, oh my God, there's a bazillion copywriters and there's only this like finite number of businesses who need copy. How can I thrive? How can I stand out? And I think it really goes to show that like if you zoom out, there are so many businesses out there that are looking for copy support and so many new opportunities. I mean, you mentioned Web3. We haven't even begun to see the potential of where that can lead. We have started to see the potential of where that can lead, but we don't even know what future opportunities kind of lie out there for copywriters and marketers.
Yeah, and the cool thing with Web3 is it's like there was obviously a dip where crypto prices went down and things like that, like a new crypto winter, although it's already kind of rebounding a bit. But really from a copywriter marketer perspective, that's a good thing because, and I'm pretty plugged in on this, I'm an advisor on a project that's already got a multi-dollar market cap, all this just through my network, and I've gotten lucky and it's been cool. But what they're starting to realize is, we actually have to do marketing for our projects. We can't just sort of throw our NFT project up on a place like OpenSea or get it on a listing and we're all going to get like rich and change the world. Like we actually have to like communicate. So it's really even better than it was 6 months ago or 3 months ago, because I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who are big players in that space who are like, oh my God, copywriters? I need a copywriter. Like, oh yeah, we really need help with our funnel. And it's not because they're trying to sell, it's like you sell anything. Like, ideas need to be sold. Like things that change the world, like generally need to be sold. Like there's that novel or naval, however you say it, that quote about how like essentially it's like great products should sell themselves, and if you need to do marketing, then like it's a shitty product. And that's like the dumbest thing ever. I just hate it. That's like I've never disagreed with something more. It's like literally you have to sell ideas, you have to sell products, you have to sell, and it's the same thing with Web3. So yes, it's really cool, all the opportunity that's there.
And the opportunity that's there is creating more opportunity for businesses in so many other different types of niches. I mean, the online education business is exploding, the info marketing business, the e-com business, and like every kind of niche within that, I've seen just massively scaling up. And it's because, like you said, there's so many more opportunities being created every single day. And then businesses are jumping on those opportunities. And no matter what, they're going to need copywriters and marketers to help promote their products and services. And I agree, I often say, your product doesn't matter with a giant star under it, to say, of course your product matters. It should be a great product. It should be helping people. There's no question about that. We're not here talking about how to sell shitty products. So that's a given. But so many people put so much time and effort into creating the product, and then it's the whole like, if I build it, they will come. I put up my website, why am I not making $1 million yet? And that's where obviously copywriters and marketers come in. So you mentioned kind of the dip in crypto, which kind of leads me to my next question, because a lot of people are talking about that we're entering a recessionary period, and I get it. Like it can be a little bit scary, especially when you're just starting out. If you feel like, oh my God, businesses are tightening their purse strings, they're hunkering down. How can I really start and scale my business as a freelance copywriter or just an online entrepreneur in general? What advice would you give to people who maybe have that fear lingering?
Yeah, so I think that the way I've approached this is, and this is informed by history, is more or less like, don't worry about the recession, right? Don't worry about it, ignore it. So this starts with going back to the start of the pandemic, and everyone was really freaked out. And I started looking into, all right, well, like what happened during the Great Depression, because that's the greatest sort of, economic crash of like in American history. And what you find is it was the companies that kept advertising and essentially just continued on like business as usual. They more or less pretended that there wasn't like a depression. They thrived, right? So it's something like GM overtook Ford, become the #1 automaker. There was like Camel and Lucky Strike, and back then people didn't know how bad for you cigarettes were, but these companies were, kind of like the Coca-Cola of today. And I can't remember if it was Lucky Strike or Camel. One of them basically overtook all the market share. There's all of these stories of companies like really rising and gaining market share and growing during the recession. There's also, even in 2008 through 2010, there was countless startups that began in that period of time and that were extremely successful. And if you really look at like I was actually just looking at the gross domestic product, in the United States, for example. So the GDP, how much are we like producing? It's an indicator of economic health, right? And we're currently at like, I was over, okay, I don't want to mess with these numbers, like 20 trillion. I'm actually going to type it in. I don't want to like be the, I don't want the king of my keyboard going here, but yeah, it's about 21, trillion dollars in 2020. And like, so if you go back to like, let's see, 2008, it was still about what, $14.71 trillion, and it's gone up. And then, it like, I don't know if we have the numbers for 2021, but the point is, okay, so recession might mean that instead of our GDP being $21 trillion, it goes down to like $18 trillion.
Right.
Like that's $1 trillion. There are still like people still are buying stuff. In fact, if anything, marketing becomes more important because it's more competitive. So people need copywriters more than ever during a recession. Also, there's all these like industries that do great during a recession. So for example, skincare and beauty actually do really well because a lot of consumers, often women, like they don't go to a spa, they don't do these other things, but they want to be able to treat themselves. They want little luxuries. So skincare does great during a recession. Health supplements do well. All kinds of like DIY things do well. There's all kinds of industries that flourish and thrive during recessions. So this idea that like, oh no, there's a recession, it's just like, I get it. I get that change can be scary. But at the end of the day, everyone still buys stuff during a recession. People still spend a lot of money cumulatively, and there's still going to be more opportunities than there were 10 years. I mean, just from the virtue of the internet and the move to e-com and Web3 and the stuff we mentioned alone, there will still be more opportunities during a really nasty recession than there were 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So there's going back to the blue ocean. I feel like that is a fact. And, I think people can use the recession as an excuse, just like people used the pandemic as an excuse. Some people kind of decide to take some time off because of the pandemic, and they were like, well, I know people who did that, and I know people who continued on like business as usual. And myself and many people I know had our best year ever financially in 2020, and then our even better year in 2021. But I also know people who just kind of uses the pandemic as an excuse to not work and to sort of like shut down, and then those people are still playing catch up. So I think it's really mindset and attitude. And but I don't buy for a second that the recession should affect anyone who wants to have a career as a marketer or copywriter in a negative way.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. And I think it's good to talk about because let's be honest, like media, news, I mean, of course, like there's fear mongering everywhere. And I understand that, especially if you're someone who, let's say, has a 9-to-5 job and you're just about to take the leap into a completely unknown world of freelancing and working for yourself, that is so, scary. And that's scary already. But then when you hear all this fear mongering about the recession, of course it's going to be more terrifying. And I completely agree, Stefan. Like mindset, I mean, you and I have both been in the industry for so long. Like we've seen the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs. And one thing I always say is, the markets will always change. That is just a normal part of business long term, but marketing will never change. And, we're friends with a lot of incredibly smart business owners, that I look to them and I go, I wonder what they're doing right now. And guess what? They're doubling down. They're building their businesses. They're investing in the surest asset they have, which is their businesses, and trying to really double down and gain that market share while other people kind of back away and are a little bit afraid to lean in and take action. So now more than ever, businesses are looking to hire marketing support and copywriting support. And so, sometimes ignorance is bliss, and I'm kind of the same way, like put on the earmuffs and I'm like, blah, 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 and I just stay in my zone. But I truly believe that as long as you are honing your skills, putting yourself out there, adding value, and selling products and services that genuinely help people, there's no way you can't win, no matter what the markets are doing. So that leads me to my next question. It's another question that I get a lot, which is, do you believe that copywriters will be replaced by AI?
Yeah, I get that question a lot too. So it's just one of those funny things where, like, so honestly, yes, but is it going to happen anytime soon? No. I think that AI is getting better. Can it be a tool for copywriters? For sure. Maybe will it replace really low level, kind of more like content writer type of people? I don't mean low level as them, a judgment of them as human beings, but just as far as their skill set and what they're getting paid, right? It may replace those people faster. So that's why we should really try to master and get great at our craft. But realistically, from all the smart people I've talked to, including Peter Thiel, who I was like name dropped, but I got to have dinner with him a couple of weeks ago. And, he's like a billionaire co-founder of PayPal, very smart dude. And, and he was sort of just like poking fun at AI basically, and like saying we should all calm down about it. So, it's happening, like it's there, but I don't think it's anywhere in the near horizon. I think, probably 10 years plus out, maybe 20 years out. And then I think about it this way. Okay, let's say it's 5 years out. Okay, so say 5 years, it can replace me and every other copywriter. So then you've got somebody who's early on in their journey. They're just kind of getting to copywriting. And like, well, if AI is going to replace me in 5 years, and why even bother? Why should I do it? And it's like, all right, maybe, but let's think about this. Let's say you take the next year and you start getting like good at copy, right? Like you don't make a ton of money. You make like, I don't know, $15,000 over the next year. It's part-time. You still have another job, whatever, but you start getting really good. And then year two, you're pretty solid. Now you make like $50,000, maybe 55,000. Okay, like say 55. So now you're at whatever, 70,000. Cool. But now you're like really good. So then there's usually this exponential leap that happens. So year three, there's a very reasonable chance you make like 150,000, right? And then in year four, you may make a couple 100,000. Maybe some royalties come in, whatever it is. And then by year five, the point being, in the next 5 years, if you invested in copywriting as a skill today, you could probably make anywhere from 300 to, really, I don't like put a cap on it, but $300 to $500,000. I'm not saying every person will do this, not an income claim. Everybody's different, blah, blah, blah. But like, it's very reasonable that you could do that with like the right, if you really focus to dedicate yourself to it. And so then in 5 years, when AI comes around and like, oh no, you're like, all right, well, I guess I'll have to figure it out, but at least I've got a couple $100,000 of savings in the bank. And so I'm in a much better position, to do things. Plus you've probably met amazing people, you've built your network, you've joined communities. So now you're gonna be in a way better position to pivot than if you didn't. And otherwise, okay, if you don't jump into copywriting, because it really is one of the easiest ways to generate a good income. And I don't mean that copywriting is easy, but compared to other stuff like offer ownership and business ownership, and we can always talk about that later. I've got some thoughts on that stuff. It's a pretty straightforward way to like make a good living, especially if you do dedicate yourself to your craft. So, and again, I don't actually think it's 5 years away. I think it's more like 10 or 20, but even if it was 5 years away, wouldn't it be worth your time to develop this stuff now? And the last thing I'll say, Alex, too, real quick, is like, not only that, but when you get good at copywriting is salesmanship in print, right? So, okay, AI is writing the copy, great, but like now you know how to sell to other people. You can close clients on the phone, you can sell from stage, you can present, you have better communication skills. You basically learn foundational skills that can make you millions of dollars over the next like 10, 15, 20 years, regardless of if like a machine's writing sales letters or not. So that's the other part I wanted to throw in too.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I mean, I agree with everything, of course, that you just said. And again, kind of going back to you can use it as an excuse to not get started and go in 5 years, aha. And again, I don't think it's 5 years away either, but aha, I knew it, AI is taking over. And meanwhile, you're still in a job you hate. It's like not learning how to drive because one day there's going to be, and there already is, like self-driving cars. Like, to me, the rationale doesn't really make sense. And it's something that I've always said is, AI is a tool. It's not a complete takeover. And going to your last, point, copywriting is not just putting words on a page, right? And I had the opportunity actually of chatting with Seth Godin, obviously like legendary marketer. He had said at AdWorld, mediocre copywriting is doomed, and everyone freaked out. I got all these messages. And then I had the opportunity to actually talk to him on a Zoom call, and I said, Seth, you said this at AdWorld, like, what do you mean by that? Can you go into a little bit more depth and detail on that? And, he said, look, mediocre copywriting is doomed, just like mediocre web design, guess what? It's already been replaced by tools like Canva. Mediocre video editing, already been replaced by tools like Dissects. I mean, AI is not going anywhere, but does that mean I don't hire a freaking badass designer to design my branding and my website? No. Does that mean I don't hire a YouTube editor who's editing this video right now? Hi, Mate. No, of course not, right? It's easy to go, oh my God, and freak out and say there's no point in even doing this, but like you said, said, copywriting is such a foundational skill because it's not just writing words on a page, it's understanding your audience, it's being able to relate to people, it's being able to communicate with empathy, it's being able to sell, it's being able to persuade, it's having better communication skills, it's being more confident on calls with clients. There are so many incredibly successful business owners and marketers and entrepreneurs that I know and love today who literally got their start by learning copywriting, and then that became this like beautiful gateway, if you will, into this insanely amazing world that we're both in now, which is, yes, copywriting, but then so much more than that. Entrepreneurship, marketing, business, and being able to really make an impact in the world, selling more products and services that help people. And if there's some AI tools that like help us do our job faster, great, good for us, right? Anyway, that was a rant. I like ranted.
No, I mean, I ranted and I talked fast, so I apologize to your viewers.
I talk fast too.
I know, and especially about topics we love, and also good for us. I'm name dropping Peter Thiel. You're name dropping Steph Godin. Like, hey, look at us. You know, we're doing all right. Two copywriting kids. You know.
Right. Exactly. And like, you know, I think that's why we love our craft so much. Like, it's not like we woke up one morning and said, you know what, I'm gonna talk to Seth Godin today, or like I'm gonna go have lunch or whatever with Peter Thiel. Like, maybe like this is not part of like the original questions I had thought to ask you, but I'd love to know, like, on this note, right? How did you get started in copywriting? Because again, it's so easy for people to look at what we're doing and go, oh my God, I'll never be Stefan, I'll never be Alex. You know, where did you start? Like, because I'm sure like many people, it was a very humble beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, in 2011, my dad was like diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and I moved back home to kind of be there to help support him and my mom during the final months of his life. And I read the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, as a lot of people did, and was like, oh, that's the dream. So I started trying to create like an e-com store, but I had no idea what I was doing. That didn't really go anywhere. And then my dad passed away in October of 2011. I went to Vegas in November, and I met Laura Catella, who is an incredible, you know, copywriter. And, you know, basically she ended up showing me what copywriting was. So I was at a poker table and this is random. Basically, I was at a poker table. This girl walks in, she gets seated at my table. Somebody says, you know, what do you do for a living? She says, I'm a writer. I want to talk to her. So I'm like, oh, what kind of writer? She said, I'm a copywriter. And I'm like, wow, copywriter, how cool. And like under the table, I Googled like, what's a copywriter? Because on my iPhone 1 or whatever, because I had no idea. And then from there, I took a sales job. I didn't even dive in right away, but eventually I was this following. So I wrote like a for hire, like my first sales letter was selling my own services to write sales letters. And I put on a place called Warrior Forum, and I charged $149 for a sales letter. And I woke up the next day and I had 2 people that bought it. I did like, you know, whatever that, I'm not good at math, so I'm a copywriter, like $290 something in PayPal. And then I basically quit my job really quickly and dived all in. And I went on to Elance, which is now Upwork. And I would take every gig I could get. I really looked at myself more as like a freelancer than like a copywriter at that point. So I was doing like I did like market research for a guy who wanted to create like an IT server company in like Bozeman, Montana. I wrote someone's college paper, actually a couple people's college papers for them. I would do anything I could just to make enough money to not have to get another job, because that's what I didn't want. But I struggled for a while, and then I was lucky to get hired by some different people who kind of mentored me and shared insights. And so that was like 2011, 12 that I started. And then 2014, I started to get pretty good. So that 2-year thing, right? I started getting pretty good. 2015, I started making really good money. And I started my own health supplement company, which almost took all my money away, but I eventually figured that out and went from there. So, I think that's what's funny in our industry. And I think it's good for people to be aware of, is that, it's the whole, people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year or a month or whatever. But it's really like that with copy, because you might come in and you hear about people making 10 grand a month and you're like, oh my God, if I can make 10 grand a month writing, my entire life would change. Everything would be different. And you're right, it would change. And then you'll get that would become your new, floor, and you'll probably figure out careful, increase your kind of living quality to match it, and be like, oh crap, I'm still broke, and then eventually you'll figure it out. But it would be great. It would be life changing. It would be amazing, right? It's not all roses. There's like all kinds of struggle that happens as you go on your own and all that. So I don't want to like, but the point is too, it's not like a get rich quick thing, but at the same time, the how far you can go in a year and 2 years is amazing compared to like a traditional corporate job, right? You work like a corporate job for 2 years, and maybe you go from making like 40,000 a year to like 50,000, and that's like a big deal. Like, wow, you've been like, that's a huge raise, right? Like a 25% raise in 2 years. That's you probably don't get that unless you're really a rock star. Whereas in copywriting, you can go from making 40,000 in year one to like 150,000 in year two, right? Stuff like that happens, and then it only continues to build from there. So when you come in like early on, just focus on becoming the best, studying results. Don't even worry about the money, and then like just focus on your craft, and then the money will follow. And that's advice I tend to give to people as well. But yeah,
I 100% agree. It's funny that you use those numbers. I made around 40,000 my very first year copywriting, and then in year two I made like 168,000. And I know that because I just did a video where I looked up my tax returns and actually was like, okay, that's how much money I made. And it's true. You know, I'm really careful about not ever promising that copywriting is this like get rich quick thing, but going back to what you said at the beginning where, you know, copywriting is easy. It's not easy in the sense that like, oh, you just like take one course and next thing you know, you're making 6 figures, but it's easy in the sense that anybody can do it. You don't need to have like a formal writing degree. You don't need to even speak English. Whoop, my AirPod's falling out. You don't even need you don't even need to speak English as your mother tongue, as long as you can write in English or write copy in your language. You know, I have so many copywriters that write in Spanish or whatever, and so it is easy from the sense that there are literally no barriers to entry, and the results that you can get relatively quickly compared to a lot of other career paths is absolutely amazing. But like you said, it takes some work.
Yes, totally.
Okay, so what do you see happening in the industry right now with copywriting? Like, what do you see copywriters do that make you kind of cringe and you're like, no, don't do it, don't do that? Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions and you know, like people out there teaching stuff that maybe isn't the best way to go about it. And I'm curious what your take is on that. Like, what makes you cringe that you see in the industry today?
I mean, there's a good amount, honestly. You know,
Pretty
and I don't
shade.
mean that in like an elitist, snobby way or anything like that. But yeah, like, you know, I think one thing is just going back to focusing on getting like good and mastering your craft. You know, you'll see, because like content marketing and marketing yourself is important as a copywriter, right? And I was telling you before we started recording how I'm at my Creek house up near Sedona, and I had to run to a Walmart to get a USB mic because I don't have one. And there was like all these USB mics, and there was, you know, like selfie stands for recording content with lighting. And I was like, man, it's crazy. There's like in the like half the electronics section of Walmart is like stuff for content creation because we're in like a creator economy, right? And people say that, but it's true, and it's incredible when you think about it. It's so freaking awesome that people just want to create and express and share. It's honestly gives me goosebumps. It's like the most exciting and cool thing ever. So it's not that you can't be a creator, but early on, like, you don't need to pretend to be an expert when you're not. So you'll see copywriters who just started and they'll try to write these sort of like expert opinion pieces about like, here's like 3 things you should never do in your copy. But it's just like very easy to tell if you're an experienced copywriter or an experienced business owner or marketer, like, oh, this person is just speaking from theory and has no real world application or knowledge or understanding. And then that generally just makes you look bad and kind of disqualifies you. It's unlikely that anybody's gonna see this sort of generic kind of post or video where you're sort of talking in platitudes and be like, wow, I'm gonna hire you. And it probably weakens your position in the market. So that's one thing that kind of makes me cringe, because it's like, don't worry about it. Just focus on being like good. And then once you're good, you know, then you can create content. Like, you have your YouTube channel. I've got a whole crazy content like flowchart I just made because I'm going to really go back to pushing my organic social hard and other stuff. But I'm doing that after like, you know, over 10 years, like longer than that. And right. So I think there's a time for that, but yeah, just focus on being good and not like you don't need to be like a pretend expert when you're not.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Like, and it's tough, right? Because, you know, we talk a lot about this in my high level programs and things like that. Hey, you know, you want to build up your authority. You want to build awareness around who you are and what you do. You want to connect with your ideal clients. And I think there's a way to do that without trying to position yourself as the expert when you're not. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that. They go, oh, well, what do I post if I'm not posting quote unquote, you know, expert tips, even as a beginner? And there's so many ways to go about it. For example, you know, share what you're learning, share who you're learning from, share conversations you've had, share discovery calls that you've absolutely flopped, you know, share mistakes that you've made. You can share from a perspective of, hey, I'm not an expert. I'm your friend who's going alongside doing this with you. And that makes you more real. And I can tell you that I almost, and this is before I had the posse, but when I would be looking to hire copywriters to bring on to client projects or whatever, I would almost never go for the people who were trying to position themselves as an expert, because I was like, well, what are their goals and intentions? Are they trying to be a coach? Or are they trying to really get good at their craft? And so almost the more personable and just real they were as people, the more likely I was to say, hey, I think, you know, assuming they have writing samples and I like their portfolio, was way more likely to hire them. And so again, I think there's a lot of mixed messages in the industry right now about what you need to do to stand out and get attention. And there's a lot of like spinning your wheels, because I can't imagine as a new freelancer how overwhelming it must feel to be like, not only do I have to hone my craft and get better at my skill set and do client outreach and apply for positions, but I also have to be on TikTok. So like all sorts of social media, you know, Instagram, LinkedIn, reaching out, like that's stressful. And I started my copywriting business or freelancing in 2012, like end of 2011, 2012. And I didn't even have a website until 2016. And so I think there's a lot to be said for not trying to be the expert before you are, and just genuinely sharing your experiences.
100%. And I love your advice. I totally agree. I mean, when you do get a win, share the win. Be like, wow, I'm so excited. Here's how I approached it. Here's what I did, right? Even honestly, it sounds really counterintuitive and most people won't do it, but when you have a loss, share the loss and be like, hey, here's what happened. I thought it would be a win. And then looking back, like hopefully maybe you have data. You can be like, the data, this is where I messed up. Like, really glad I learned that, because next time you better believe I'm gonna, you know, like I'm gonna to do it right, whatever it is. Like it, yeah, authenticity. I know you and I both really are passionate about that, and so yeah, I love your advice. I think that's spot on for sure.
Yeah, and in my opinion, authenticity creates authority because it's so much more believable, right? So again, like by being just truly who you are and sharing your unique experiences, wins, losses, you know, just being you, I believe that creates more authority, because a byproduct of or like the sister of authority is trust, you know? And so being really authentic can really help create that authority. The more clients you get, the more you can share, and then the more that authority builds. And that sort of leads me to, and I know you and I could like talk about this forever, but cold outreach. It is a question that comes up a lot in the posse about, you know, and I get it. Everyone wants clients, and you know, there's a lot of people who talk about cold outreach and how successful you can be at it. It's personally never been my go-to strategy for finding clients. I'm much more of like the, you know, relationship building, few as opposed to many kind of approach. But cold outreach it happens a lot. You and I probably both get God knows how many emails in our inbox every single week from people sending cold outreach emails to us. So I'm curious, what is the worst cold outreach email you've ever received? And what are 3 to 5 tips that, like, what not to do? Like, let's tell a cautionary tale here of like, if you're gonna do cold outreach, great, but here's what you absolutely should not do.
Man, okay. So, yeah, I have a ton of things on my list of what not to do. The worst cold outreach, let me give you 2. One is kind of recent. Okay, the first one is a one-off kind of. I raised about $50,000 for Make-A-Wish recently. I don't do the whole story, but basically I was at an airport about to catch a flight, was sort of really self-absorbed. They announced how this little girl when her family were flying to Disney World to meet, you know, the princesses and all that. And I kind of like looked up in this moment, I saw the little girl and how she was so full of joy and happiness. And I realized how I'd been so self-absorbed. I hadn't even noticed like that there was, banners on the wall, like, hey, make a wish, like good luck on your trip. I forget her name, but, and all that. And I was like, man, what a wake up call to be. And I thought about my daughter and like, how fortunate I am. So I started crying. Like I was just crying. I was crying at the gate waiting to get into get on the airplane. And I donated like, a good amount of money on my own. And I started emailing my list and was like, hey, I'm going to basically do this training for anybody who donates to Make-A-Wish. And we raised like $50,000+ in like 4 or 5 days. It was awesome. It was so cool. But as I was doing that, I had one person who sort of responded and tried to like pitch me, like, hey, like I want to work for you. And like, you could hire, like, they basically had this like crappy thing to pitch me. And I responded to them, I'm like, hey dude, this is just like really a bad time. Like this whole thing I'm doing is trying to like raise money and do good and bring awareness to this thing. And then you come across as so serving, and you're just like replying to all this and not like, didn't donate even, right? Even if you donated, maybe it would have felt transactional, but I would have at least felt like I had to respond in a nicer way. But I was like so, don't be that person. First of all, don't you have situational awareness and like think about like, right. Like it's like going up to somebody who's at dinner with their kids in the middle of like feeding their little kid and then like be like, can I get a selfie? It's like, they're not going to respond well. You can wait till they're done eating and talk to them then. And so situational awareness. Another one is somebody recently who wrote like an email for like a contest we did through the mentorship program we were doing. And they basically, for this person, if you watch this, I'm not ripping on you. This was just not a good approach. They sent me this like email with the subject line. It was like her hairy bottom. And it was like this email about how, there was some girl that he was really like attracted to when he was young and all this. And then they finally, got intimate, but she had a hairy butt. And they tried to segue it into like, by the way, like, can I work for you or whatever.
I don't care what is the segue there? Like, I can't figure it out. What is it?
I don't remember exactly. And then they followed up like 10 times, which is a do, right? Following up is good, but it was still like her hairy bottom. So it just kept going to the top of my inbox, her hairy bottom. And I'm like, oh my God. So, I think I finally responded. So I guess I get points for that. But I was like, hey, like, look, I can't help you right now, whatever. But the thing with that, the lesson to that is, and this is one of the mistakes people make, right? So is look at your outreach like sales copy too, right? And so what you're trying to answer is like for me, is if I'm your prospect, in this case, your prospective customer, then it's like, what's in it for me, right? You need to demonstrate that you know my pain point, you can empathize, you have a real solution that you're going to present to me, then show who you are and kind of build the rapport, the credibility of, why I should trust you to do it. And then, kind of ask for the sale or whatever. Give me your pitch, right? But what happens a lot is that freelancers, like, because you should also be funny. You can have personality. Things like that are okay, right? Yeah. Like the problem is that they'll email and then they'll be like, here's a novel about me and my life and all of that. And it's like, it can be well written even, but at a certain point, you're like, this is interesting, but I got a million things to do. I can't keep reading this person's life story. So, you gotta kind of capture me like I'm like a prospect, right? Like just like a lead. You gotta hook me and grab my attention in the first few seconds and then keep it, and then you can get to the stuff about you a little bit later. So a huge mistake is that people don't get to what's in it for me and what's in it for the prospect fast enough, and that blows it. Another mistake, we can talk more about her hairy bottom, of course, but at the same time, it's also being like generic is the same thing too, right? So going back to understanding the prospect and their hopes and dreams, desires, their pain point, things like that, like doing a little bit of research. Like, hey, I saw in a podcast interview with Alex or YouTube interview, you mentioned that you had this need. I looked into your website. I saw that, you're doing this, and this, which is really cool. Here's something I identified that could really help. By the way, my name is whoever, and here's what I do. So it's like customized, because the amount of generic emails I get, and I'm sure you're the same way, like, question, would you like to grow your Instagram following? Like, question, do you need help with your YouTube content marketing? Question, do you need a copywriter? It's like so generic. Why would I, of all the people Like I run a copywriting mastermind of 200 plus people. You run a big copywriting group and mastermind, and I have 15,000 people in my Facebook group. I've got all this stuff. Like, why would you, this person I don't know, we're just like, do you need a copywriter? Like, you think I don't know any copywriters? Like, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, glad you asked. Like, oh my god, I've been want to try. Where can I find a copywriter? I've been racking my brain. I'm so happy, right? Like, you've gotta really do it. And then one more I'll say, and then I will shut up for a minute. Is going back to that, understanding them. I think like if you're applying, or are you like, I really think giving someone a custom sample, even if it's like 100 words, goes a really long way, because then they can envision what it would actually look like to hire you and work with you, right? So if you're like you want to write emails, like I was checking out your emails, again, I understand your business, I saw them, they're great. I noticed you kind of do this format a lot, so I wrote one that matches that format. Check it out, right? It's like a 100-word email, like it could be an email creative or something like that. It could be a new headline, it could be a new Facebook ad, right? Because otherwise, no matter what, I'm like, I have to try to like, I don't know, there's this huge unknown, there's this huge gap between like, me hiring you and actually getting like, what's it going to be like? Are you going to be easy to work with? Are you actually a good writer? Do you understand my brand? All of this stuff. But if you give me a little custom sample, and then I like can be like, oh wow, they really get it. That's the only time where I will just hire people or give them opportunities. I pay people like, side note, people watch this, please don't pitch me. I really don't need copywriters right now because I have my mastermind and all of that. And I'm also the worst person to pitch because I am a copywriter. People pitch me a lot and I'm like, I'm not the person to pitch. Like, pitch people who aren't like master copywriters running a massive copywriting mastermind, right? But I have hired people for like, again, like a grant to write a lead or something. And honestly, it doesn't even work out a lot of the time. But like, if they follow up and they give me something custom and it looks good, and I'm like, oh hell, I'll take a chance on them because they made the effort, right? And then there's the reciprocity and stuff like that. So let me take a breather here. But yeah, those are some, hopefully a lot of gold for people who are early on in their journey.
Seriously, that's so great. And yeah, because it's kind of similar. Like I think what really grinds my gears is when it's like knowing your medium. Like I understand that we're all copywriters, but your email to me should not read like a sales page. Like I've gotten cold outreach emails where they're literally written in like all title caps because they're trying to write it like it's a sales page, and I'm like, I don't even know who you are, and it's just an immediate turnoff. And so being personable, like let's not forget, we talk about levels of customer awareness all the time in marketing. Like, who are you and why? And like you said, how can you help me? And let me tell you guys, appreciation, like genuine appreciation goes a long way. When someone messages me and they go, Alex, I've been following you for this long. I absolutely love what you're doing. I'm a huge fan. And like, throw in like emojis if that's how you normally communicate. Use exclamation marks if that's how you normally communicate. The emails that are just genuinely nice, human emails. Like I can count on one hand how many emails I get in a month that are actually like that compared to all of this other, I'm gonna blow your mind. I got one cold outreach email from a guy that was like, I've worked with incredibly well-known, businesses, blah, 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 blah. Of course, he didn't say who the businesses were. And then I went to go check out his website, and the website went to like a 404, like a dead URL. And I wrote back to him and I was like, and I usually don't do this, but I was like, this is a teaching moment. And I wrote back and I said, dude, like your website doesn't even work. So you say that you have all this authority working with all these people, but you didn't say who. And then when I went to go look at your website, it went to a URL that didn't exist. And his response was, yeah, obviously, because I don't want to use my actual website in my cold outreach emails because it gets marked as spam. And I was like, point in case, like you're sending so many emails that you don't want to use your real email address or that your real domain. But anyway, I just think don't waste your time sending out like a bazillion emails, because yes, while it is a numbers game, I kind of like disagree with that in a way that if you have 10 people whose brands you love, companies that you're like, I live and breathe for this business, and you know what, I'm just gonna like send them a note of appreciation. I love what you said about creating a sample. I agree, like it doesn't take that long. I had one student that just closed a massive client because she reached out to this NGO that she really loves, and they had kind of gone back and forth on Instagram with just like sending like thank you notes and commenting on each other's stuff, and it was like just very, very genuine. And then she saw something was missing in their marketing and wrote back and said, hey, I noticed you don't have this. And they booked a discovery call. And before the discovery call, she sent the free thing that she was going to help them with anyway, the sample, because she's like, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be transactional, I'm just trying to serve and support. And now she has a new retainer client as a result. So I really think there's something to be said about like just being a cool human. And I know that that's not a good cold outreach, like I can't charge $1 million for that cold outreach strategy, but that's really it.
Yeah, it's a huge one. And then, yeah, just like seek to reduce friction for your prospect instead of create friction. So like, you know, for example, don't ask people to mentor you, because like mentoring, like I always say that when you're like, you know, hey, like, and I would love to work for you for free and you can teach me and mentor me. I'm like, dude, I would way rather pay money and not have to exchange my time. Like, yeah. And the secret is if you're good and you work hard, like, you know, people tend to notice and they will end up mentoring you because they choose to mentor you. But like, you're actually doing yourself a disservice if you're asking people you want to work for or with, you're trying to offer to do it for free. You're typically like, you're actually creating a potential friction and burden, because now that now I have to take all the time to mentor this person. I'm beholden to them. I don't know. I just want to throw that in. I have a million things. We can do a part 2 sometime. I know.
Totally.
Every time you and I talk, we could always. One day we need like a talkathon where it's like Stefan and Alex talk copy for 24 hours, because I feel like we could crush it.
Oh my God, we could. I know, we just keep riffing off of each other. But I think, again, that goes to show, and like, I don't want anyone listening to this to think like, oh God, Alex and Stefan, like they're being so shady. Like they're just talking about what's not good in the industry. It's like, we're passionate about this industry. This industry and like copywriting has literally changed both of our lives. We believe in it so much. And I think it's really such a beautiful skill. And, you know, that's why we're passionate about teaching copywriters, like how to do it right and how to show up and stand out in the industry and, you know, what not to do. So that's obviously a big part of it.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. Cause I just want to say to you, I'm not throwing shade. I'm not trying to crap on anybody. I'm not trying to be smug and all that. It really is just me trying to share what not to do and what to do. And yeah, I know it's hard because we're so used to it. I get it. I want to speak specifically to people early on in your journey. Like we're here. I know, Alex, you're incredible at it. I really try to be too. We're both here to support you and we want you to succeed. It's just sometimes it's frustrating seeing people make mistakes. And then especially as a teacher, because like we teach this stuff a lot, like don't do these things, but there's always new people coming in. And so you're like constantly but that's part of the game, you know. But hopefully everyone watching this, hopefully it helps people, saves them some headaches and helps them get results faster.
Yeah, I think it will. So real quick to wrap up, I know, again, this is something that we could talk about for probably hours, but it's a question that I get sometimes, or it's an objection that I hear a lot. Like, hey, Alex, you know, really the only way to make passive income as a copywriter is to create, you know, your own offers or products. And, you know, I disagree with that statement, because I built a very successful copywriting business long before I ever started the Copy Posse, and a large part of that was passive income that I was getting as a result of the copywriting I was doing. But I'd love to kind of hear your quick hot take on that, and how as a copywriter you can really scale to that point of making, let's say, 6 figures, part of it passively, without having to create offers and products.
Yeah, so I think that first, get good at copy, like obsessively, you know, study and try to master the craft. Get wins, get momentum, get traction, like get known in the industry. Then you can either negotiate royalty deals, performance bonuses, things like that, which can be passive. When you do those, be careful. Do that with people who are established business owners, established offer owners, whatever it may be, that have a track record of actually paying. That is a mistake early on. There are clients who will sort of be predatory and promise you, you know, everything because they want you to work for free for them. So those aren't the kind of deals you want, but there are lots of countless established kind of offer owners and entrepreneurs who would love to have somebody incentivized on a performance basis. So, you know, they should be paying you a little bit still up front, or even a decent amount, but you know, the big upside is there. And then ultimately you can even, I think the next step from there is really to JV, to do joint ventures, where, you know, as you're doing this and you get really good, you can come on with a company and get like a percentage of equity or a profit share or a rev share and help them to grow. And you can be upfront about it. Like you're going to do the copy at the beginning, but then ultimately you're going to build a team, or you'll oversee other copywriters, and, you know, basically that they're bringing you on to be responsible for the results, not like the method or the process, right? But the outcome. And as you do that, you're going to learn holistically a ton about running a business or running an offer, what works, all of the headaches that go into it, all of the expenses and surprise expenses, and, you know, like the iOS update issues and ad costs and all the things that happen. But, you know, you can start to make a nice amount of money passively. And then from there, if you really want to start your own offer and that's a goal of yours, then I think you should start the offer. I think that, you know, it's just like 95% of small businesses fail, right? But if you look at the ones that don't fail, a lot of time it's people who were the right-hand woman or right-hand man of a successful entrepreneur for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years or even maybe 3 years. And so they really understood it. And then they launched their own business and they had the network and they had these other entrepreneurs who they'd worked for supporting them. And they, right? Like, so then the failure rate goes drastically down. And I think it's the same thing here. So this idea that like, you know, it depends. Like if your offer is like, I want to get 10 people to come hang out with me at like my house for 2 days, you know, once a year, I'm charging $1,000 per, I'm gonna spend all year doing it. Like, sure, you could probably make that happen. And make, you know, again, like you might have to take some time to figure it out. But if we're talking about anything with like physical products, even informational products, there's just a lot of learning curves. And then you're gonna need to like hire people. There's a lot of money. And if you've never really run a business before, like, you know, there's a lot of learning curve, and you're gonna spend a year or two, you know, learning stuff and burning through money and really being stressed out, which you may have been better served just actually focusing on copywriting. And, you know, so I'd rather do it the way I described at the beginning. And I think I shared this in a Facebook group, and it was controversial, and I didn't think it should have been, because I wasn't trying to like, you know, crap on people's dreams, but it's also like, it's just not, I don't want to be realistic about it. It's not like anyone can just magically start an offer and become a millionaire, right? This is not how it works. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. And I've seen too many times people try to do this before they're ready, and on their own, and end up, you know, regretting that decision.
I agree. Yeah, and it's tough because, again, like, speaking of misconceptions in the industry about like how easy it can be to create a course and make a bunch of money, and, you know, I think the like what's missing from that statement is, yes, once you have the skills and experience and the authority to then, and the support network and, you know, all of that, to then go and create a course and make money. You know, creating a course is not a shortcut to making money. And in fact, you know, there are days, I mean, I absolutely love what I do, but there are days that I miss making multiple six figures, traveling the world with literally 1 or 2 meetings a week, writing on my laptop while sipping an Aperol Spritz in Italy. And I go, wow, like, building an offer is not just building an offer, it's building a team, it's building the systems, it's building the framework, it's doing customer support, it's managing communities, it's like a whole different ball game. And so I think for me, my success was a direct correlation, like you, to the amount of hours and time that we put into honing our skills and our craft. And then when you get to a point in your business where people start coming to you saying, hey, can you help me? And you can no longer serve on that one-to-one level, I think then it makes sense to then go, okay, how can I start serving on a one-to-many level? And it takes a bit of time to get there. And so, yeah, I love that. And again, it's just real talk. You know, it's not poo-pooing on people's dreams. It's saying, hey, you know, we've been there, and I've seen so many people try to launch a course right after finishing, you know, a copywriting course, and they go, hey, what's happening? It's not working. And it's like, yeah, because, you know, there's actually a lot of pieces that go into it, and you don't want to burn yourself out just as you're starting to like get that momentum to exit the Earth's atmosphere, you know? So I love all of that. Well, Stefan, thank you so much. I know this went longer than initially planned, but like we said, we could do a 24-hour talkathon and we'd still probably never run out of things to talk about. But I appreciate you being here so much. Where can everyone go find out, you know, more about you and connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. First of all, I love this conversation. It's a blast. You can go to my website, stefangeorgi.com. You can find me on Instagram at Stefan Georgi. And, you know, I'm around. Find me on Facebook too, other places. But really, Instagram or my website are 2 great places to start. Awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you so much for being here. I know the posse will absolutely love this. Comment below, you guys. Let us know your favorite part, any like aha moments you've had, any like, myths or misconceptions that you've heard, or anything you just loved overall about this interview. And, share some love, share some posse love with Stefan below. Obviously, like this video if you found it helpful, and I will see you next week with a brand new video. Until then, I'm Alex. Ciao for now. All right, guys, if you enjoyed that video, make sure to check out the next one from me right here. And you can click right here to get a free gift. If you're a fresh freelancer looking for ways to find new copywriting clients, here are 9 different approaches that actually work, with personal stories and advice directly from my Copy Posse students.